Hi, my name is Alyssa Clark. This is a lesson for Module Week 8. The lesson plan title is Multiple Strategy Instruction for Informational Text. The objective for today is that students should be able to coordinate a repertoire of strategies to guide comprehension. The grade level that is intended today is grade 4. The schedule that we will go through the CSR strategies and the teaching chart. I will model how to go through each step using reading the first part of Pioneers on the Oregon Trail, and then I will allow students to break into partners and finish the story while going through the same steps that I modeled. The recommended group size would be to start with a whole class and then break into pairs later on. Okay, so class, today we are going to talk about CSR strategies. So I want you to look at this chart for me. So CSR stands for Collaborative Strategic Reading. So collaborative means working together, and strategic reading means a plan for understanding what you read. So there are 4 main categories. We have the preview, which you do before you read. We have during reading, we click and clunk, and also get the gist. And then at the end, when we're done reading, we wrap up. So we're going to go through everything on this chart while reading our text today. So does everyone have a copy of Pioneers on the Oregon Trail? Okay. So good readers preview the text before they read it. So previewing has 3 steps. First we scan, then we brainstorm what we know about the topic, and then we predict what we will learn after the reading. So let's scan first. So I'll begin by scanning this page. So I see the title, Pioneers on the Oregon Trail, at the top of the page. So this is the topic of the selection. Then I see 2 bold-faced headings, and these headings are The Way West and Packing for the Journey. I see a sidebar with italicized text in it, and it is a quote. And I see a picture of a covered wagon, and I also see a timeline at the bottom with events from history. Okay, so I kind of scanned the page. I didn't read anything except for the headings, but you just see what's all on the page by scanning it. So next, we're going to brainstorm what we know. So using what I saw from my scan of the text, I'll brainstorm what I know about the topic. So I know that pioneers traveled in covered wagons. I also know that the pioneers traveled from east to west. Okay, those are things I already know about pioneers before we even start the text. Okay, so next, I've already scanned and I've brainstormed. Next, I'm going to predict what I think I will learn from this text. So after you brainstorm what you already know, then you predict what you think you will learn about the topic. So these predictions are based on clues from the text. They're based on what you already know, but based on what you scanned from the page too. So based on the title, the headings, the pictures, I predict we will learn about the pioneers' trip west on the Oregon Trail in covered wagons. Based on the quote, I predict we will learn about what the journey was like. Based on the second heading, I think that we will learn what the pioneers all packed for their journey. Okay, do you guys see how I did that? So we haven't actually started reading anything, but we already kind of have an idea of what we're going to be reading and what we think we're going to learn. Okay, so during reading, so that's the middle part of our chart, you should monitor what you're understanding and what you're not understanding. So words and concepts that we understand, that means they click. We understand them. like a train rolling down a track. It just clicks. Words and concepts we do not understand clunk, like hitting an obstacle. You clunk. It doesn't quite work. So when you hit a clunk, you can use a fix-up strategy like the vocabulary strategy that we already talked about to figure it out. Remember how to use this strategy by using context and word part clues in combination. Do you remember talking about that? Okay, so this is the click and clunk. So I'm going to read the first paragraph for you, okay? So everyone listen along while I read. So in the early 1800s, Lewis and Clark explored the territory west of the Mississippi. No one knew what they would find. As they traveled, they made maps. They wrote in their journals. They described miles and miles of beautiful land with tall trees, good soil, and rushing rivers. Okay, that's the first paragraph. So in the first paragraph, I don't know what the word territory means. Okay, so that would be a clunk. So step one is I would look for context clues. So in the fifth sentence, it says miles and miles of beautiful land. This might help with the meaning of territory. Okay, so step two would be to try to break the word into parts. I don't see any suffixes or prefixes in this word, so we'll just skip step two. So step three is to use context clues to guess the meaning. So based on step one, I think it might mean a big area of land. So in step four, we try out that meaning in the original sentence. So Lewis and Clark explored the big area of land west of the Mississippi. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. So I'm probably right. Based on context, I was able to find out what the word territory means. So that's an example of a clunk, something you don't quite understand, and how you figure it out. Okay, so next, after you click and clunk, then you get the gist. So remember that good readers can identify the most important ideas when reading. So in the CSR, in our chart, this shrinking process is known as get the gist. So remember, we have already learned about paragraph shrinking and how to summarize. So first identify who and what the paragraph is about. The main who in this paragraph is who? Lewis and Clark, yes. I think the most important information about Lewis and Clark is that they explored the territory west of the Mississippi. So then I need to explain the paragraph in 10 words or less. So here is my main idea statement, or the gist. Lewis and Clark were the first to explore the territory west of the Mississippi. Okay? That's kind of the main point of that first paragraph, so that's get the gist. So we will continue to click and clunk and get the gist. At this time, I am going to allow you to work in your partners, which I've already assigned for you, and we talked about that before. And you are going to read the second paragraph, packing for the journey. And I will be walking around the room to see how the partners are doing with these concepts. So you're going to be focusing on click and clunk and get the gist, okay? I'll give you a little bit of time to do that. Okay, so after we were done reading, then we wrap up. So, after reading, we have wrap up in our chart. So I'm going to model by generating questions about what we just read. So focus on the ideas in your main idea statements and begin each question with who, what, when, where, why, or how. Okay, that's how you begin all of your questions. So some examples of my questions are, who explored the territory west of the Mississippi in the 1800s? Lewis and Clark, yes. What did the pioneers leave behind? They left a lot of things behind, didn't they? They had to leave their whole life to travel out west. Okay. Why do you think people were willing to pack up and head west? Why were they willing to do that? Why were they willing to uproot their whole life? Yeah, a lot of them thought they would get rich, and they just thought it was going to be a better life. They thought that out west everything was going to be better and easier. So that's why they were willing to pack up and move their whole life somewhere else. Okay, so that would be the ask and answer questions portion. We ask a few questions about what we read and we answer them to make sure that we understood. Okay, so next we will review what we learned. In this part of wrap up, you review by noting the important information you learned. So it helps to first go back to the list of brainstorms and predictions that you made in the preview step before we even read. So both of my brainstorms and predictions were confirmed in this text. So I predicted that I would learn what the journey was like for the pioneers and how and what they packed. And from the text, I learned that it was a long journey and that the pioneers could pack only the essentials that they could fit in their wagon. So I also learned other information though. So the people knew about the West because of Lewis and Clark. I learned that. I learned that gold was discovered in California in 1848. I learned that the Oregon Trail was thousands of miles long and took several months to cross. So that's all new information that I learned that wasn't in my brainstorm or predictions. Okay, so now we have been through this whole chart. Does everyone kind of understand how to do this? So you go through each step. Don't skip any steps. Every step is important to remember and comprehend what you're reading. Okay? So I am going to let you and your partner read the next few sections. During this time, I will walk around and chime in and make sure everyone's understanding all of this in this chart. Every step is important. So this teaching chart will be up on the board so that you can refer to it and make sure you're understanding everything. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, so you guys go ahead. So at this time, I would give them probably 15 minutes or so to read this in their partner groups and go through all the steps in the chart that we talked about. They had the opportunity to see me model it. I know that there would probably be still some difficulties, but I would be walking around and trying to help out any group that was struggling. So once we were done reading, I would bring the class back together. So you guys did great today. I just want to tell you that once we have a grasp on the CSR strategies, we will begin to implement new strategies, and we will use learning groups to do this. So each student will be given a different role in these groups. There will be the leader, the clunk expert, the gist expert, the announcer, and the encourager. So instead of doing all of these things, you'll have a role that you're going to focus on. But once we feel comfortable and we understand these strategies, we can begin implementing this. So that'll be further down the road. Also, I want you guys to remember these steps and try to memorize them. You can write them down and refer to them later as well. So using these steps when reading at home or even at school will help you to become better readers. It will also help to understand and comprehend more clearly what you're reading. Going through these steps really helps you to do that. So by going through all of these steps, you have a better chance of remembering what you actually learned from the text. Okay, so that's why we're doing this. So continue to do this at home. You guys did a great job today, and we'll continue to work on this.